Hey, hi, hello, how is it going? I hope you are doing fantastic. I hope you also had pizza for dinner, and I hope that sounds as enthusiastic as it did the first 3 times that I recorded the audio for this video. But my pains aside, leave a like for persistence, and we'll get to what you're seeing on screen right now, which is a rolling pin session that I just had. A solid 10 to 15 minutes of me just really not sitting down, standing up and attempting to grind out, some kendama related tricks on the rolling pin, trying to give myself some freedom to try new things, and just seeing what this toy is all about so that I can bring you my explanation and description of what the rolling pin is like. And let me say, I absolutely love this thing. Had such a great time with it and enjoying it thoroughly still. However, there is one kind of caveat, one issue that I have with the rolling pin that I will get to. See if you can actually figure that out, like just watching the clips in the background. There's something that I keep having to do, and it's because of this issue that I keep running into. So let's start with something big and broad. People might ask, oh, is the rolling pin just like a kendama? Can a kendama do everything a rolling pin can do? Can a rolling pin do everything a kendama can do? Etc, etc. And I think we can break down those broad questions to really give you a feel of what it's like. So I'll start by saying, yeah, like every trick you can do on a kendama, somehow, one way or another, will translate into being able to be done on the rolling pin. Some of the ones you'll see just in this video alone, in this session alone, are some stalls, juggles, some whirlwind variations, down spikes, fast hands, etc, etc. Obviously, there will be a couple tricks on kendama, that are made for kendama. The border balance, the sweet special, they rely on the shape and the properties of the kendama itself. So obviously those can't be directly translated over to a rolling pin, but the concepts of the string flow and the balance definitely can. Now, as if we just popped into our hotel room, let's start to unpack, and I'll start with kind of 3 things that I wanted to note down that all revolve around how it feels to play the rolling pin. Because you can hear me say, oh yeah, it's good, and give you a thumbs up, pat on the back, but unless I can really describe that experience and feeling for you, I don't think you'll really understand how, fun and good, for lack of a better term, the rolling pin is. The first of those points is that the adjustment going to rolling pin from just playing kendama is absolutely seamless. And you may think, oh, of course it's seamless, like they're kind of like the same thing, wooden toy with a string. But no, let me remind you, when I first switched over and got a jumbo kendama, like that chrome XL glow kendama, it's like 1.5 times or 2 times the size of a regular kendama. When I first got that, it took me like time to adjust to the feeling of the weight and the way it moved and the way it flipped around in my hand. I couldn't just pick it up and instantly play it. The rolling pin, however, it's not like that. I can go from kendama to rolling pin, back to kendama, back to rolling pin, and it just feels like a seamless transition. And that's really exciting because I don't feel like I have to, take 30 minutes to get into a session with the rolling pin. It's instant. Pick it up, it feels like kendama, it feels right, it feels great. The second point is kind of an extension to that, in the fact that just because it transitions seamlessly and you're able to go from kendama to rolling pin easily, it doesn't mean that they're necessarily the same or that they feel the same. Just the transition is easy. It's like you can go from eating a spoonful of peanut butter to eating a spoonful of jelly, and the transition is very easy because you already know how to stick a spoonful of goop in your mouth, but that doesn't mean they're going to taste the same. I don't know if that's the best analogy, but let me try to explain what I mean. The rolling pin to me feels like it naturally lends itself more to flowy lines and fluid motion and quick transitions between tricks, quick, click clack, little flip tricks, switching grips and moving with it. It's more of like an interpretive dance than I feel like I get from kendama. Kendama, I feel more streamlined. It's like, I think of a line, oh, this trick to this trick to this trick, and then bang, spike at the end, and that's like, a trick done. The rolling pin to me feels like it's more freestyle-y, more like hit a quick spike trick and then it flows around. And obviously kendama has those properties too, but I'm telling you from my experience, the rolling pin lends itself more in that direction. Now my third point kind of branches into the why. Why does it feel more flowy and quick and fluid? And I'm comfortable saying, like in a generic sense, maybe in air quotes, that rolling pin is easier than kendama to me. This can boil down to a few things. Obviously, first of all, there's 2 2 spikes and 2 holes on a rolling pin, whereas a kendama just has 1 spike and 1 hole. Obviously that's not the whole equation because the kendama has the cups, but when you're slapping a trick, if you land it in big cup on a kendama, it's not really as satisfying. You don't consider the trick as complete. On the rolling pin, however, it's 2 spikes, 2 holes. You have such a better chance of spiking and really nailing that trick to the point where, you know, it's satisfying and feels like that trick is complete. And not only are there 2 holes, but the holes in the bevel on the tube part of the rolling pin are massive. So even when your spike feels a little bit off, or it's just, you know, you're kind of trying to sneak in the spike there when you're not totally lined up, it goes in a lot easier. And with kendama, for example, say you're doing a juggle and, you know, you throw the ken and then you hit the tama. If the tama is like spinning around, it's really tough to control and find that hole to be able to spike it. With the rolling pin though, it feels like there's always a hole facing you when that tube is spinning around, and I feel like it's so much easier to always find an opportunity to spike. And that's what I think makes the rolling pin feel easier, is that it is easier. You can see the hole easier, the spike is more accessible, and the bigger bevel just makes your odds of landing it that much better. And I can even take that one step further, making it less of an opinion and almost more of an objective observation. Because if I throw up like what I call a Hail Mary, which is just like, you know, on a kendama, I throw up like triple, quadruple, 5-oople J-stick and try to land it, the odds of landing that are pretty tough, because for me it's like 0 skill, it's just all luck trying to spike it. But if I do the same with the rolling pin, with the double the bevel and the huge size of the bevel, or double the spike depending which way you throw it up, it lands so much more frequently. I even have one in this video here where I just toss it up and it lands, and it feels like it wants to land more so than doing it on a kendama. And again, it just all boils down to bigger bevels, more opportunity to spike. So yeah, that's like a little experiment you can do just to prove to yourself that, you know, there are elements of rolling pin that are easier than kendama. It's just the way it is. From there, I want to quickly mention some of the unique and fun and creative things that I kind of discovered for myself during this session. Now, obviously, I didn't discover them completely. I'm sure they've been done before, but kind of that stacking fast hands that you might have seen. It feels like a Facebook mobile game ad where you're like stacking cubes or something. You know, I'm starting from the grip on the bottom and then shifting my grip up to the top and, you know, fast handsing it around. It's a fun, the rolling pin really lends itself to those stacking kind of tricks because the 2 cylinders fit together so well and feel so good in the hands that you stack and clack, and fast hand kind of tricks just feel right. Also, it kind of goes along with like grip switches, such as the 1.5 trade spike, which is way easier on the rolling pin, again because there's just, you know, bigger bevels and more options. And then anytime that you're switching grips in the air, almost 2 fast hands when you know, switch going from upward and do like a down spike kind of grip, those are super fun. And then the stall on like the belly of the rolling pin, which I don't think has a direct, you know, translation to kendama, but landing on the side of that rolling pin on the flat part of the tube is very satisfying. You can see a lot earlier in the video, I think I was able to hit like a juggle to that like belly stall, and that was super fun. So those are some of the unique things that I'm discovering from rolling pin. And let's get to the one and only issue I have. Those are all the positives. I mean, this thing is absolutely great all around, and I absolutely love it, and this doesn't take away very much. But to explain the issue I have, I will switch to the version of me that you've been watching, and I'll do that right now. Obviously, that was incredibly fun. Well, I don't know if it was obvious, but it was incredibly fun. And I've made a lot of tricks possible that I think on a kendama would take me forever and always to try to land. And I'm sure you've heard all the good things about the rolling pin already from future me, for me, past me, for you. But let's get to that one issue that I'm wondering if you were able to kind of pinpoint as you were watching that little play around session. The rolling pin has a string obviously connected on to the hole part and to the spike part. Now onto the hole part, that string is wrapped around a groove, as you would have seen in like the unboxing video I made or whatever. So that string is set in place. The string that goes into the pin rolling pin part goes through this little hole here, and the knot goes in from the back. And long story short, there's no bearing bead, and this string is like not able to spin freely basically at all, which is why you may have noticed me doing this very frequently, trying to unwind the string during my session. You might wonder why that's kind of such a big issue. Well, with the rolling pin, a lot of tricks involve, flipping it around a bunch of times. And it's a lot easier standing up. However, if you keep flipping it round and round and round and round and round, and maybe more round and round and round than that, eventually you'll be playing and the string will end up like this. And then when you go to do like a pull-up trick, you'll go to release and see how it starts to turn like that. So you don't get your nice pull-up that you're expecting. It twists around and you basically have no choice but to kind of untwist it manually during your session, which is a bit annoying, especially because, like I said, like you can't just do infinite like J-stick type tricks, because eventually the string will be so wound up that it just won't go anymore. So maybe one day we'll try to get a bearing bead in there somehow, make the rolling pin a little bit better, but all in all, incredibly fun. Definitely recommend you play around with one of these. Maybe your friends got one, maybe you want to buy one yourself. Check out the unboxing if you want to see the details behind it. And oh, one more thing. I do plan on making a video that, kind of like when I did the Sweets cushion clear thing, I want to get some input from the community on a certain kendama related topic. So, I don't know if I mentioned this in the beginning of the talky part already, but I am going to be, just putting like a question-y thing on my Instagram story saying, oh, what do you think about this? Getting some of your feedback, putting it in the video. So if you want to follow me on Instagram, you could be a part of that video whenever I get around to putting all those thoughts together and actually asking the question, I guess. Other than that, have a rolling pin, pinata, Perry, fantastic day.